Well, hello and welcome to this Thursday's MBE Movie News. I am your host for tonight, John Walsh. Giving myself my surname tonight, yes. And I'm here to discuss a wide variety of, hopefully, very interesting movie topics. You will never know how hard it was for me to scour the internet today, looking for interesting enough movie topics to speak about on a show. It was very hard, guys, but I got there in the end, I'm pleased to say. But look, I'm going to start the show on a slightly sombre note. It's all about the sad passing of one Dame Diana Rigg, who was, of course, a prominent actor in the 1960s, all the way through, of course, to fairly recently. I myself know her as Lady Olenna Tyrell in Game of Thrones, where she was, of course, in Highwater, was it? I want to say the Tyrell's home castle was. She was a fantastic actor. She, of course, has passed away at the age of 82 in the early hours of Thursday morning, I want to say. And look, her family have been out and they have been speaking very beautifully about the actor. And look, I'll bring up a short little snippet and read the quote out. I'm not going to dwell on it too long. I just want to speak about it because, of course, that's what we tend to do on these shows. If there's a prominent loss of a well-respected actor or filmmaker or producer or writer or something like that, then we like to just tip our hats, metaphorically speaking, to said actor. And look, the family came out and says, "It is with tremendous sadness that we announce that Dame Diana Rigg died peacefully early this morning. She was at home with her family, who have asked for privacy at this difficult time. Dame Diana was an icon of theatre, film and television." Oh, there goes something falling there. That's not good. She was the recipient of BAFTA, Emmy, Tony and Evening Standard Awards for her work on stage and screen, of course. Dame Diana was a much loved and admired member of her profession, a force of nature who loved her work and her fellow actors. She will be greatly missed. And look, I completely agree with that. I can't say anything more powerfully put than that, because I am, quite frankly, a complete plebeian on the internet. But look, she was a widely respected actor, and you just have to look at the list of awards that she notched up throughout her very distinguished career to see just what we have lost. We are losing a hell of a lot of great people these days, and it's always sad to see the loss of yet another on that list of people. We lost Kirk Douglas, we've lost Chadwick Boseman just 10 days or so ago, and of course his loss was a little bit more hurtful for fans because of his fairly youthful age of 43, and the manner in which he passed, it really took people by surprise. Obviously Diana Rigg, much older, 82, it doesn't take away the poignancy of the loss, it doesn't take away the pain and hurt in which her family are going through. And look, yeah man, I just thought I'd start the show by touching on briefly the sad loss of Diana Rigg. But look guys, I'm going to move on to the main headline of tonight's show, and it's all about Sony Pictures, and they have come out and released a statement. It's the Sony chairman who has admitted, the chairman is Tony Vinciquerra, incidentally, what a name that man has. He's come out and he's delivered a fairly lengthy quote, and I shall do my best to read said quote. And he's been speaking about Sony's release schedule, Sony's release strategy for the coming year or so. Let's hope it's less than a year, but it's all playing into the COVID pandemic. And he says, "What we don't do is make the mistake of putting a very, very expensive $200 million movie out in the market unless we are sure that theatres are open and operating at significant capacity. You'll see a lot of strange things happen over the next 6 months in how films are released, how they're scheduled, how they're marketed. But once we get back to normal, we will have learned a lot, I think, and found ways to do things that are somewhat different and hopefully better. We have a film opening this weekend, Broken Hearts Gallery, a small film which I think will do pretty well." Now, why am I headlining the show with this? Well, quite frankly, there is no other news out there. That is predominantly why I'm headlining the show with this. But it also intrigues me because it's just very interesting, isn't it, to see how these other studios, out with the likes of Disney and Universal, are tackling this ensuing humanitarian crisis that is the coronavirus pandemic, how it's affecting their bottom lines, how it's affecting their release of bigger budget movies. Disney have utilised a wide array of different strategies, I want to say. They put Disney's Mulan out on Disney Plus. That caught people off guard, slightly by surprise. But then it's more nuanced than that with Mulan, because within it they are also releasing the movie in theatres over in China as well, and in other territories where Disney Plus is not yet available. So they are operating a sort of multifaceted release strategy. Universal have, of course, brought in big hit movies like The Hunt earlier in the year, Invisible Man. I'm sure The Hunt was Universal. Took them straight from theatres right onto VOD within like a week or something of the pandemic hitting it majorly in Western civilization and affecting people's ability to go out the house during lockdown and stuff like that. Then, of course, we've seen it with Trolls World Tour. They put it straight to VOD. Huge success. $50 million or something like that it earned in its opening weekend as an on-demand rental. And it wasn't cheap either. And then, of course, you have other movie studios utilising their own unique strategies, delaying movies time and again. Warner Brothers are the predominant sort of studio who are fighting fire with the whole Rona thing and pushing movies into theatres despite reduced capacities, despite what it may do to their bottom lines, their profits, yada yada. Of course, Christopher Nolan's Tenet being the main movie that everyone is talking about, which is currently out in theatres. I went to see it twice in a theatre. It was absolutely safe, but I completely understand what Sony are saying, because when you look into the numbers of Tenet, it is not blown doors down with its box office performance by any means. $160-70 million or something. Only earned $10 million in real terms over the opening weekend of its United States release, and that was Labour Day weekend, I want to say, and they were counting early screeners and they were counting Canada's stuff as well, its box office grossings. So it's not doing that great, but it's doing great in the context of a global pandemic, and that is the main reason why I can completely understand why Sony are going down this route and perhaps delaying their bigger budget movies, because to be quite frank, if things go pear-shaped and things go worse like they look like they're going to be doing in Europe over the course of the next 3-4 months, then even less people will be able to go into theatres. They may even shut down again, and it's just not financially viable for a studio like this to release big movies like Morbius and Venom 2 and Lord knows what else they've got set to come out. I actually searched it up earlier on, but such is the way of my brain, it's letting me down badly, guys. What I would say as a little caveat to this is it's a dangerous game to begin down, laying your cards out on the table and saying we are not releasing very expensive $200 million movies in the market until studios are operating at a significantly higher capacity, because when will that ever be the case? We could have a situation where this goes on for another year and a half. The most recent example of a pandemic of this kind was in 1918 with the Spanish flu, and it lasted 2 years. We are currently only about 5 months into this pandemic, maybe 9 if you count January in China and stuff like that, I suppose. We could be another year, and that would start eating into profits at Sony. It may change their mindset, and you could conceivably have a situation where movies like Morbius and Venom 2 and their other big releases, I want to say Peter Rabbit is another one, Peter Rabbit 2, set to come out early next year. They will not see the light of day if they continue on with this strategy of not releasing them in the theatres because of reduced capacity, because capacity ain't going to go up that quickly in the next year and a half. It's just not. Things are going to be slowly brought back to normality within the next 2 years. I don't know what the best strategy is to operate. I am not an executive at a big movie studio. I presume they know their numbers much better than some pleb on the internet. I presume they know what they're doing, but you look at the likes of Tenet and they're getting money in just now, money that otherwise wouldn't have been available if they delayed it time and time again. And sometimes it's best just to get the movie out, recoup some money as opposed to no money. Even if it is eventually a loss, it's still money in the bank in the midst of a pandemic, as opposed to just delaying it, and then it's a sort of Gambit New Mutants situation where the movie never sees the light of day. But look, just briefly hanging around on this Sony interconnected topic, I've got a short little topic I want to touch upon as well, and it's Spiderman 3 is filmed. I've actually got a graphic up for this. Yeah, I have got a graphic. It's a completely separate topic. I'll move on swiftly. So about Spiderman 3, of course a Sony property. Filming and the filming of said property. Look, I'm going to reword that because this is completely wrong, this article. The release is potentially delayed until winter 2021. The rumour mill is swirling, and that is what is currently making its way around the grapevine at the moment, that this movie is in a bit of trouble, that the production could very well be getting delayed, and that will of course have a knock-on effect on the movie's ability to hit theatres and release. And they are suggesting winter next year, November to be more precise. Of course, as I just touched on with the whole Sony not willing to put out movies in the $200 million bracket mark until things are much better, that may never happen. It may not even come out next year. Even if it's filmed with no hiccups, it might not happen because they are not willing to take the risk. But that's what they're saying. The production will be delayed. It was set to start production July this year. It's not yet happened. I remember reading about it. They suggested that Tom Holland would work in tandem with the Uncharted production, going back and forth so they could get them shot concurrently. It's not happened though. It has been delayed. And they're saying that it could, as I said, have a knock-on effect for the movie's release. Now, I don't believe this is an all that bad a situation for Spider-Man more specifically, because I've seen the likes of Kevin Feige coming out and speaking about where this movie's going to go when indeed it does get released, and he spoke glowingly of Tom Holland about how this is going to be the first proper Tom Holland Spider-Man movie where it's all about Peter Parker. It's all about Spider-Man becoming more confident in his skin, being a man instead of a boy. And this is something me and Steven spoke about in previous shows when we touched upon the Spider-Man character within the MCU. I love Tom Holland's performance, but the guy he's not been what we have seen of Spider-Man from the likes of Tobey Maguire and obviously Andrew Garfield to a lesser extent. He's been a bit of a bitch at times. He's been very youthful, and he's got a lot of maturing to do, and of course he's lost his mentor in Tony Stark, and he has to mature goddamn quick. He's only had 2 movies. I thoroughly enjoyed the movies. He has been a bit part player in the Avengers movies, maybe Infinity War aside, with that cool scene, the whole aliens concept. And now I feel like it's time for him to really step up and command the presidency he deserves. Spider-Man is one of the big hitters in the Marvel comic universe, and he has to be in the cinematic universe. So giving him that little bit of time, giving the screenwriters that little bit of time to make sure that everything is ironed out and it's all correct, prim and proper, and that they have got the story absolutely solid, and they've got a clear creative direction of where they want to go in terms of villains being introduced. Been lots of talk about what's his name again? Oh god, I've completely blanking on his name. The sort of hunter villain. Don't know why I'm blanking on his name. Absolutely shocking, but he's a primary villain for Spider-Man, in a sense his nemesis. If they can get that character in a sort of organic manner, have it fit in with perhaps the Simmons character who outed him at the end of Far From Home, and it's Jameson. I think his name is, not Simmons. It may be Simmons though. I'm having them there tonight, guys. But if they can make it work, and then this break in some way aids them, then look, it'll be all the better for it. Just briefly though, touching on one other little topic relating into Star Wars. It's not Star Wars, Spider-Man. Got a Star Wars hat on, I'm obsessed clearly. Even when I'm not speaking about it, I want to speak about it. This one is something that's not going to happen, in all honesty, but it's such a cool image. You can see it there. It's such a cool piece of fan art from, I want to say it is from, I can't get the man's name, but Jackson Caspers has produced an array of fan art in recent weeks. I presume he done another one with another potential Spider-Man villain. This one is all about Electro, and it is him sort of making up what a potential Electro villain in a Sony stroke Marvel Disney universe would look like. And as you can see, he has done a little bit of casting as well, and he's picked one Aaron Paul of Jesse Pinkman Breaking Bad fame. And look, I say it's not going to happen because it ain't going to happen. As he rightly says, the character was already explored in The Amazing Spider-Man. It's way too soon, and Disney are already trying to differentiate themselves from the previous movies by giving us villains we've not seen before. So it's not going to happen, but look, I felt I had to touch upon it because it's such amazing fan art, and I want to see this guy, Aaron Paul, stepping into a role like this, just like I want to see Zac Efron stepping into a role like that as well, maybe Adam Warlock or something like that. I want to see this guy using all of his acting chops in a big blockbuster superhero movie, or comic book movie, whatever you want to call it. The guy's been wasted on TV shows. I know he's a really good actor. Some people may disagree with me, but you've seen it with Kumail, you've seen it with Jesse Pinkman, you've seen it in an array of other TV shows. He's made some terrible choices, but that does not dilute the man's ability to act on the big screen, and I really want to see this guy taking on a role like that, if not with Disney, and then perhaps with Sony and their Sony villainous universe. But look guys, I'm going to move on to the very next topic. As you can see, I've relegated this right down to the third topic on the show tonight. Lord knows why, because it has got the potential to be a headline on most other shows, but it's all about Neve Campbell, and she has been confirmed to be returning to the Scream franchise as Sidney Prescott, and I think it was actually Radio Silence, the production company, who have gave us a press release, a statement, and Neve Campbell's been speaking as well, and I'll bring up the quotes. It's a very lengthy quote from the two parties, but look, you can see it there. Neve says, after spending time speaking with Radio Silence, they have shown so much love, respect and admiration for Wes Craven and all that he's created in the Scream franchise. I am beyond excited to step back into the role of Sidney Prescott and return to Woodsboro. And then of course we have Radio Silence themselves also talking about the return of Sidney, and they says, we're pinching ourselves. It's hard to express how much the character Sidney Prescott shaped our love of movies, and to have the chance to work with Neve is truly a dream come true. It just wouldn't be a Scream movie without Neve. No, it wouldn't. You're quite correct. And we are so excited and honoured to join her in Woodsboro. Or Woodsboro, I call it bruh, because that's the way we see it over here in the United Kingdom. But look, this is great news for the Scream movie. It really is. They're utilising the old gang, David Arquette, David Arquette, I'm going to go with Courtney Cox. They're all coming back, man. And not only that, they're really pairing it with a sort of star-studded, I was about to say stellar, well, maybe not star-studded, stellar's the correct word, cast and crew around about it. These are people who have worked on Ready or Not and stuff like that, and that was a great little horror movie from, I want to say last year, that I really enjoyed. It utilised all of the elements that you've seen in the old school Scream movies. It blends of dark humour, out-and-out humour, wackiness, grotesque violence at times, and I thoroughly enjoyed the tone of it, the pacing of it. These guys being involved is an absolute coup for this movie. The fact that they've been able to bring in and attract all of the OG gang, it's going to create that continuity. They're looking for a sort of remix, probably a reboot, but they don't want to come out and say a reboot of the Scream franchise. Well, I'm not adverse to it, man. I know I speak about reboots and lack of originality in Hollywood and just lack of new creative concepts in the film industry in general. And now I'm sort of contradicting myself by going out and saying that, look, this is great news. But the reason I'm saying it is because it's been so long since we've seen a Scream movie. I can't actually recall the last time we've seen one, and I feel like it's right to get back into this franchise. It's always been a semi-satirical story as well. They pop into little pop cultural things. They look back to classic horror movies and they take little snippets out. The characters are self-aware in a sense. The humour was always great. And it's not taking itself too seriously. It's not like one of these stuffy sort of art house horror movies that think they're snobbish and that, yeah, they're so serious you can't laugh at them. This one is a sort of classic popcorn flick from a bygone era. I grew up watching them. I really enjoyed the movies. I love the Ghostface Killer character, Scream. I'm pretty sure that's what you call him, Ghostface Killer, because I'm thinking back to Dead by Daylight again, and that's what I think he's called in that. But it's such a cool villain. It's almost like a mini Michael Myers for me, and it's sort of iconic status on the screen. And I'm really excited to see what the hell they do with this, just primarily because of the cast coming back, and just as I says, the crew, the directors, the writers, all being correct. They're people who know about this genre. They're people who get what it means to craft a classic slasher movie. I'm currently trying to move on to the next topic just as a transition, but I can't do it in an organic manner because the camera's right in front of me and it's screwing up my eye level and my ability to see it. But look, man, I'm excited for it. It's coming out Lord knows when, January 2022. It's slated for release. That's not far away at all. So I'm going to keep my eye on this one, and I'm going to watch with bated breath to see that first trailer and see if I'm liking what my eyeballs are seeing, and then that will perhaps inform me on whether I'm going to the theatre to see it or not. But look, guys, moving on to topic number 4. I want to say I'm losing the plot already. I'm going to ditch that Tom Felton topic that was set to slide into the final discussion point in the show, but that's not going to happen now. I may flip it in just for a little shot of that Labrador, but look, we'll get into this topic first and foremost. It's all about Kumail Nanjiani. He's been speaking about Eternals and the lack of palpable news on this movie, the lack of a trailer. This movie's set to come out early next year, I'm pretty sure. Summer, early 2021 it's set to come out. We've not even remotely had a sniff of a trailer, any real promotional stuff at all. And Kumail has come out and he's tried to soothsay the fears of the fan base and just give them a little glint at what to expect. And I have to tell you, it's wetting my anticipatory juices quite a bit, because you read this quote and I am going to read it for you. I know there isn't much news yet. I'm in the dark too, trust me. Liar. No, you're not. You'll know more than us. I can't wait for it, whenever it comes, but I promise the movie will be worth the wait. It's the most exciting, fun, epic, thrilling, hilarious and moving project I've ever been a part of. And it's massive. The scale is unlike anything I've ever seen. I would walk on to shoot and be awestruck by the sets every day. And look, that excites me, man, because we need this to be a sort of big ensemble, big, grandiose, scaled movie, because this is the one that's really kickstarting Phase 4 for the MCU. They have to get it absolutely right, just like they got, albeit a much smaller scaled, Iron Man in 2008. Absolutely right. It introduced us into this world. It enveloped a whole generation of fans into these stories. It bonded us to Tony Stark and Iron Man. We need this to happen again. I know we still have a plethora of our OG Infinity Saga characters to utilise moving forward, and some newer ones too, but you have to get these guys off with the audience pretty quickly. You have to have that bond there, and in order to do that you have to write a pretty damn and a good movie for the fans to get their teeth sunk into. And you need to do exactly what he says they're doing. Utilise big goddamn sets, epic scale set pieces and CG effects and all of that nonsense. It's taken place over 7,000 years. That necessitates a borderline country-sized set. And look, what they say in this article as well has me very intrigued. Just the fact that Campbell, which is also played by Kumail Nanjiani, he's going to be a Bollywood star. He's masquerading as a Bollywood star at the beginning of this movie. And there's going to be a big 50 dance ensemble dance scene within this movie. Does that not excite you? Because it excites me, I have to tell you. We get a little bit of Bollywood stroke La La Land flung into an MCU movie. I don't think we've ever had a dancing sequence like that in a comic book movie before. I know Star-Lord attempted it at the beginning, or the end I should say, of Guardians of the Galaxy, but it wasn't real dancing. So I'm extremely excited to see how they're going to unearth all of these amazing characters who are masquerading in the shadows within Earth, how they're going to explain 7,000 years worth of history, how they're going to bond these characters to us, how the hell are they going to give Kit Harington a dual role in this movie, and just, man, how they're going to get us emotionally engrossed in this Phase 4. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see the first trailer, just to see more images. We've not even seen images of these guys standing together. And Kumail, you've whetted my anticipatory juices, so I thank you very much for that, my friend. And I also cannot wait to see you doing your stuff, because your physique, mate, the way that you worked for that movie was truly sublime. It was some transformation. It's great inspiration too. But look, I'm going to move on to the fifth topic of this show, perhaps the final topic. It will be the final topic, and it's all about Dune again. I just can't shut up about Dune. I just love talking about it. I love watching the trailer. I've seen it about half a dozen times now in the last half day or so. And here we have Denis speaking about some interesting parts of this movie, and more precisely, some interesting fighting styles within this movie. And I'll get the quote up here. He says, in this universe there's an invention. It's called the Holtzman Shield. Getting my Siri coming up, screwing with my reading. It's something that you can wear on your body and will deflect something fast coming towards you. Only something slow can penetrate that shield. So it made them use things like bullets less. Humanity went back to close combat, where you fight with knives and blades, because it's the only way you can kill someone through those shields. You can penetrate the shield slowly with the blade. Now, what I've taken from that as an aside to the actual concept of shields and going back to arm-to-arm sword combat, is that Denis likes the word penetrate. My gosh, he likes it. But look, he furthered on and he says that I developed with our stunt coordinator and choreographers a way of combat that's closer to chess, a chess game, than a fighting sequence. When you fight someone with a shield, the idea is to distract them with moves in advance. You want to distract them with a specific move so you can slowly bring the blade into their body. I've sounded like Bane there. Body? No, it did, yeah, a little bit. It's a totally different way of fighting. It's a way of fighting that is very fast. It's like a chess game. You have to plan in advance and distract the adversary. It's a very specific new art form of combat. I get slightly distracted there. I do apologise about that. Broken your spirit? No, your body. I thought of Tom Hardy there. Lord knows why. But look, man, that's really exciting. Again, it's just a new layer of nuance on this movie that's just got me super excited. If the big grandiose visuals and the amazing cast are not enough, if the snowworms are not... Snowworms, I'm doing it again. Sandworms are not enough. I'm obsessed with snowworms. God almighty, I want snowworms so badly. If these sandworms are not enough, then you have this amazing concept of hand-to-hand combat with Jason Momoa and presumably Timothée Chalamet, utilising this sort of chess game, but it's fast-paced. There's lots of action and advanced trickery and moves and stuff like that. It sounds so interesting. I cannot wait to see how Denis has made this manifest onto the screen. If it's going to be something that the audience will connect with, will they actually know that the characters are plotting moves in advance and try to look for a way in? Will it be explained through some expositional conversation in the movie or something like that? I don't know, but look, man, it adds a layer of intrigue onto this movie that just didn't have to be added on because there's so much going on already. It's a sci-fi epic, and this man just knows how to do these movies and do them with quite a lot of aplomb, if that's the correct word. So look, man, I'm supremely excited, man. I've said man 3 times there, and it probably tells you that I'm getting slightly tired, and it's incredibly warm in this room. But yeah, man, I ain't got much more to add. I thought I'd touch upon it. And interestingly enough, it says that director David Lynch had a similar sort of Holtzman shield thing in the original Dune movie in 1984. It didn't have the greatest technology to bring it to life back then, and by all accounts the movie was a bit shit, guys. So that was a shame for David Ayer, not so much for Denis Villeneuve. I believe the man will get it right in his handling. But look, I'm going to briefly, very briefly indeed, touch upon this. I have to just bring the graphic up. If you're a fan of Harry Potter like me, and more specifically a big fan of one Tom Felton like me, just feast your eyes on that piece of promotional shots for an upcoming Netflix movie. It's called A Babysitter's Guide to Monster Hunting. It's quite an interesting little concept of a movie. He's getting back to the sort of fantasy genre, I'm going to say, and as they do say, he's getting back to family-friendly costume departments as well. He is channeling, I have says in a graphic which I've not flashed up, his inner Gary Oldman, of course, playing Sirius Black. And just look at that amazing looking Labrador there as well. As a man who owns one truly magnificent Fox Red Labrador, that was enough to put this topic in the show for me, just to look at that Labrador and share my enthusiasm for that being in a TV show. It looks incredible. It looks so incredible that I'm actually trying to pat it with a mouse and a mouse cursor on my screen. But look, man, how good does Tom Felton look there? He looks absolutely incredible in that costume design. He does look like Sirius Black. I want to see more movies like this. We of course got a Jack Black and Kate Blanchett movie, the house with the clocks behind its walls. It was similar, sort of Harry Potter-esque themes going on within it. It had that magical element and crazy costume and set design. We need to see more and more of this. We don't get enough movies like this for me, and it's very intriguing that obviously Netflix have cottoned onto this and perhaps gave us a semi-decent one would hope. And just, look, man, I hope it's good for that Labrador alone. But look, that's going to round up the show. Tangents about Labradors and Sirius Black and amazing costume design aside, I'm going to round the show up by passing it over to anyone who has perhaps been unfortunate enough to watch our show through to the very end. What's your thoughts on the passing of Diana Rigg, the late amazing actor who won so many awards? What do you make about Sony foregoing theatre releases for their big budget movies due to coronavirus and the effect on capacity in theatres? What do you make about Spiderman 3 potentially being delayed until winter 2021? And finally, what do you make about Neve Campbell coming back to Scream, Kumail Nanjiani coming out and speaking about the Eternals, and that amazing sort of shield effect and the effect it's going to have on choreography and the way that fights are going to transpire within Dune. If you've got anything to say about any of the topics I've touched upon on the show, you can comment below and let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comment section. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. And if you do, then you will see me again tomorrow. Maybe, if I can find movie news, speaking about movie news. But until then, guys, bye-bye.